A very good morning, everyone. My name is Jean. I represent Exito. On behalf of Microsoft, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar, Reimagining IA. Before we begin the session, I would like to take you through the functionalities of this webinar. Your participation is important throughout the session. You will see a control panel on the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions for the speakers, please enter the same in the chat window. Your queries will be answered. Also, please know that the session will be recorded for internal purposes. So today's session will be in the following format. The first presentation will be from Mr. Vikas, who will be addressing us. Automation is a key part of any business process. There are solutions that talk about going beyond automation to intelligent automation. But are they really? 80% of data within a business is unstructured and requires a lot of manual effort before the document is ready to enable automation. Imagine what your business can do without the need to prepare a document for automation. Coach your extraction engine for every template or code for a specific type or document or template. What if the automation solution did not just stop at extraction but went beyond? Join us at this exclusive webinar on the topic Reimagining IA. Having said that, I would like to welcome our speaker for today's event, Mr. Vikas Anand. Vikas is the Vice President of Sales, Partnership and Alliances and Head of Growth at Botminds. He has 25 years of industry experience and has worked with Blue Prism, Infosys, and HCL. He has spent 18 years in outsourcing, consulting, and sales with global clients. The last 5 years, Vikas has been with the RPA and intelligent automation industry, helping organizations in their digital transformation journey in identifying the right tools set to solve their business challenges. Over to you, Vikas.
Thanks, Jean. Can you confirm you can hear me okay?
Yes, Vikas, you're audible.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm glad to have all of you over here. I will be covering the first 20-25 minutes of this discussion, and the idea is to walk you through what we think about intelligent automation, as the Botminds, and then walk you through our platform capabilities, and then take you through some of the case studies where we can show you exactly what we've done so far. And then towards the end, we'll have a 20 minutes Q&A, as Jean had just mentioned there. I have my team as well, which I will introduce in the middle. But I'll just get started now. So intelligent automation essentially, has been a word that almost everybody, is going after, from a typical automation to an RPA to intelligent automation to hyper automation. I mean, every 6 months there are different terms and terms to be able to represent the new growth that is there within the industry. But the key point essentially, as Jean put in her initial point, is that most of the data that is sitting within the organizations is essentially unstructured. So this is a report from Gartner where 80% of the data that is sitting there is kind of unstructured data. And the challenge with the unstructured data is that there's no particular one way of automating it. And most of the time, essentially all the time, you need piecemeal solutions to be able to go ahead and automate for a very specific niche requirement, which is all good. But the problem is that only works at that time. But the moment you have another requirement that comes through, you have to start all over again. So the ROI really doesn't work very well. And most of the time, organizations don't look at handling the unstructured data because of the variability there. And these are the challenges when it comes down to automating unstructured data. Typically, the way we have handled it so far, we as an industry have handled it so far, is that if this is an unstructured data, we put humans in the middle, which is our SMEs, which make sense of the data, extract the structured piece, and then we push it towards the other automation technologies that we have. And the challenge that is there with the unstructured data really is that it's large variable documents. We've seen documents with 100, 200, 500 pages. It's not a single page, simple invoice, semi-structured document, which is usually the same type, But even if there's a variability there, even the single page document automation kind of breaks. And that's really the challenge here. So the two bands that you see is the challenge. What is the typical option and what is the option that Botminds essentially provides? So I'll cover the last one towards the end as a group itself. So the first challenge is the variability in the document. The second challenge that comes in is that the documents essentially have a variety of different things written in them. There are infographics, there are tables, there are text. Everything is merged together. Nothing is defined. Nothing is specified to say page number 1 would always have a word, content, which is notes. Page number 2 will have a balance sheet, and page number 3 will have something else. There's nothing like that. An annual report, an invoice, a contract, an RFP, it could have any information written at any given point of time. And that's really a challenge when it comes down to automation. The third part that comes in is the domain understanding. Now, if you're looking at, pharma, organization, going ahead and trying to automate certain processes there, or the same thing that needs to be done for a telecom company as well. There are different nuances, different terminologies that are required, and all of them are typically need to be understood by the SME, and that's where the domain expertise come into play. And these semantics, these domain-specific knowledge is only residing with the subject matter experts and not really within any kind of an automation tool at the moment. And on this itself, a general purpose problem, general purpose solution doesn't really help, and that's where you need your domain-specific knowledge. The fourth part is the information that needs to be extracted is very, very specific, that needs to be kind of picked up, specific data points, specific information for certain clients, for certain business processes. If you're running an outsourcing organization, KPO organization, BPM organization, ITES, you basically have a variety of different processes that are running, and all of those have different requirements, even though they are within the same industry, say telecom, within the same industry, say healthcare, but they have different requirements. So taxonomy could be very different there. Ability to essentially extract, put them into a hierarchy is also a challenge. And then towards the end, of course, ability to augment the SME rather than replacing the SME. We're talking about augmenting. Pick up the domain knowledge that essentially exists. How do we make them better, faster, more efficient in doing whatever essentially, that they do at the moment? So that's the overall landscape, the way we look at it from an unstructured data perspective. Then looking at the SME, there are two different types of SMEs that exist within any organization. There are domain experts and there are automation experts. Domain experts is where all these SMEs have the domain knowledge. They have gotten the KT from the customer. They can go ahead and run the entire processes, entire engagement superfluously, absolutely excellent. And then there are automation consultants who are developers. These are the guys who can understand technology. They go ahead and can create automation specific to a particular process. But as you can understand, the automation for an organization or process is incomplete if these two things are kind of broken down into two, because these two SMEs look at a problem differently. Domain experts have their own intelligence in terms of how a domain needs to be understood, whereas an automation, a consultant essentially would look at the problem saying that how do I go ahead and solve it in terms of an automation. So what is the requirement really here is a common tool which comes down within the intelligent automation COE. So you all have a COE kind of set up, in place. Most of the time that COEs are the teams who basically have the understanding of a particular platform or a few platforms, but the ability to have something that can be done by the SMEs, which is the domain experts, and the automation experts that can be the same resource. I think that's absolutely important in today's time. So a common tool that essentially allows you to have an AI-first approach rather than certain other coding that is required. No-code platform, vertically integrated platform means that everything that is required for your process to work essentially works seamlessly there, and ability to have an end-to-end automation through the platform itself. That's the way we at Botminds look at the space of the unstructured data, and the rest of the section I'll essentially talk about our platform itself. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you want to share any thoughts, please go ahead and share, within the chat window. I have my team, available within the meeting. We have Gokul, who are co-founder and CEO. Ansari may join in as well. He's also our co-founder. Prasanna looks at our VP delivery. Sindhuja looks at demand generation. Vinita looks at our growth marketing. So most of these people should be available through the entire session. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put it on the chat. Otherwise, I'll pick it up after my session towards the end. Okay. Looking at this specific space, I've kind of covered that in the initial piece. We look at unstructured data coming in two different ways. Number one, unstructured data can come from documents. And these documents could be of a variety of different types. You've got your PDF files coming through. These could be native PDF file. This could be scanned PDF file. You can have the documents that are just images that are coming in. You have emails coming in. The email attachments are coming through. Or going beyond just the documents, the second category is the web pages. So information for research, information for pharma research, for example, and information for financial services research, all resides mostly on the web pages. And the ability to extract the information so far is kind of limited only to web scraping, which is nothing more but an OCR for web. And as you can understand, very brittle, needs to be customized, need to be trained to a specific extent. So we look at unstructured documents in these two sections. And we believe any intelligent process automation platform ought to be able to do more than just extraction. What we've seen within the industry itself is that most of the IDP platforms are just basically going ahead and extracting and giving you a JSON as an output, or just an output, and that's where the story essentially ends. We believe that a platform should be able to go beyond. You should have the ability to go ahead and search, use your data, consume the data, get some insights out of that, and be able to go ahead and push that information within the automation platforms as well. And for that, a single platform that we have at Botminds, which is capture, search, analyze, and automate. These four pieces are essentially done across documents and web. So ability to capture, documents, data capture from documents, or extraction from the web. And the web could be, again, a static page, a dynamic page, could be an Amazon listing, could be a news, page, could be a company profile page, could be a listing page as well. All of that information can be essentially picked up. And the core principles behind the platform is essentially these four, which is AI first approach, no code platform. So there's no need, no space to write any code in the platform. Everything is point and click. It is vertically integrated. So all the key components, being able to model, orchestrate, ability to read images, OCRs, creation of model, training, human in the loop, everything is essentially built in and integrated within the platform itself. And it does also offer end-to-end automation, which means you don't have to go ahead and pick up another automation platform to do certain things to tie the starting point, which is the source, as well as the destination towards the end. So next couple of minutes, I will show you a couple of things, and we'll actually go to a demo as well in a minute. So the very first part within Capture, we do four things here. So what's happening on the left-hand side, this is our platform. It's a SaaS-based platform. You can see this is a source document. Here is the output that has already been extracted. Output has nesting in it, and I'll explain as I go to the platform itself. This is a 316-page document, and you can interact with the document to be able to see where the information is, and then refer and verify that needs to be done. So the very first part that is happening is classification. So we recognize, what is this document? Is this a financial report, 10K, 10Q filing? Is this a contract? What kind of contract, is that? After that, we identify a variety of different tables, text forms using our, base model AIs, which is Table AI and Form AI. We have semantic understanding built in. You can train on that, and you can specify for telecom, that's the term, for manufacturing, that is the term, but they all point to net income, towards the end of the day. You can specify that. And then, of course, the extraction that is happening, which you can verify by looking at it as a side-by-side comparison as well. That's the capture piece, but that's not where we stopped. We took it the next point, which is search. So you now have the information. You don't have to go to every document. You have the ability to look at all the output that you want without ever opening the document. And beyond just that, you can create multiple different types of views for your customers, for your personas, for internal teams as well, to say, I want to look at dashboard, I want to look at customer data, I want to look at sales data, and you have all that information available. And not just that, you have the ability to find any particular information in any document. It'll even not even give you the document. It'll also take you inside and say, that's exactly where I've got the information. Now think about the tools that are available at your disposal right now. The best that can be searched for is hopefully file name, but nothing beyond that. And what we are doing is we are taking you exactly to the specific place where the information can be found, what you've looked for, and you have a full freedom in terms of customization to those queries. The third piece is analyze. Now that we have the data, we have taken it to the next level, essentially to be able to provide you with industry dashboards. Now, here is your visual representation of the data. You can have multiple personas. The second persona that you see here is a project base. So a project manager wants to find out how many documents have come in, how many of them have been approved, how many of them have gone through stage number 1 and stage number 2. And the very first one here essentially is a contract review. It's a business dashboard to see what is the breakdown of the contracts that I essentially have. So real-time reports, the data that comes through, the moment a new document is added, your dashboard essentially gets updated there. So that's the analyze part. And the last piece, which is automate, and there's no video running on the left-hand side, is the ability to take the input and the output from any of the sources. So we have the ability to go ahead and do auto web crawling, auto intake, connect with the SharePoint, connect with the email box, go ahead and connect with a particular container as required. And all of that gets passed through. So you could use this platform essentially as a completely headless engine, which means that once the training essentially is done, you have the ability to just get the final output as required, and you don't really have to come down and look at the platform or do certain activities over here. We have a human in the loop kind of built in, which means that the humans are able to go ahead and interact with it. There are alerts which are built in, typical part of the workflow. We also have derivations and normalization built in, which means that you have the data coming through. You want to pass through certain business processes, certain business rules. You have the ability to do that while the data is being extracted, and then the data will be essentially made available to you. All right, so let's quickly pivot to a platform demo here. So I will show you an example of the same dashboard that we've got. All right, Jen, if you can just give me a thumbs up that you can see my Chrome screen still. I trust that it is visible. Okay, I'm going with the fact that it's visible. All right, so this is the dashboard that you saw, as part of the video demo as well. I wanted to show you that this is actually part of our platform. So we have roughly about 28,000 contracts, and I will walk you through this case study as well in a bit. I want to show you the pieces and parts of the platform itself. So this is the business users platform. And now we have another one, which is the project specific platform, project specific dashboard. And this is where you're looking at what are my documents that are kind of available. Is there any particular type of document? How many of them are original documents? How many of them are addendums and amendments, and so on and so forth. So you can switch between multiple of these dashboards depending upon your persona. And the ability to create that, it really is a drag and drop, and you have the ability to go ahead and add anything that you want specifically on that. When you go to the documents, you see I've got, this is a demo environment, so I've only got 40 documents. What you saw on the dashboard was a snapshot to represent what has actually been done for the client. So in this 40 documents, I've got ability to look at documents in different views. I can look at project view from a sales data perspective. I can go ahead and search for a person called Jen in the entire data, and I should be able to find out where Jen's information is. But there are a couple of rules which are already in place. I could have now removed all the rules, and I could just go ahead and say, show me Jen's data. And I basically get Jen Jordan, Jennifer, and so on and so forth. But I don't want that. I want Jen only for when Jen is a sales rep, and I have the ability to create this particular record, and I will be taken into the platform. And of course, the platform opens up, and you have the ability to look where Jen's information essentially is located. A lot of other activities which are happening here. You have the classification which is going on. You've got the agreement level classification going on. And then you have the contract abstraction. So this is the taxonomy that is available here, where the information is being extracted. It's not just specific information to a particular field, but even a semantic information to say a particular clause that needs to be looked at, a particular clause that is of a high risk clause or a low risk clause. All of that information can essentially be extracted. When we go down, you look at the contract start date and the contract end date. These three different colors that you see is where we have normalized this date format to a typical, I believe this is MMDDYY format at the moment, and that's what has been done. And a contract period normalization, exactly how long was this contract in the Word. So it's 2 years, 11 months, 30 days is what has been deduced, from here. We go further down and we look at the information about the licenses in terms of what licenses are there, what is the kind of offer date, what is the expiry date, and further details about renewal, the types of licenses which are there, the signatory dates which are there, and all that information, depending upon the kind of contract that we are in, you're able to essentially see that information. So if I just go back essentially over here, open any of these, contracting documents, and this is a 12-page document. I have the entire information about the contract start date. I can look at what was the term in which this license was essentially issued. How many licenses, what is the monthly, what is the number of workstations, and et cetera, et cetera. So the entire information is kind of available to you. And you have the ability to extract this information into any of the structured formats, a CSV, TSV table, consume it via JSON or via API as well, right? And this taxonomy changes, is customizable to depending upon what your requirement is. I'm giving an example of a contract here. If it was a tender RFP, if it was a healthcare report, if it was an invoice, all of these taxonomies would essentially change, but the interaction between the entire platform would stay roughly the same. Okay, so let's walk through this specific case study. This is a contract abstraction demo that I essentially gave you. This is, an industry leader provider for font software. They specifically had 30,000 customer contracts that they wanted to, legacy contracts, because they had acquired a couple of dozen organizations in the last decade and a half. And they have a lot of documents sitting out of SharePoint. And the best that they could do was find by a name. There wasn't really much structure around that. And that's where we at Botminds helped, with our AI platform, with the contracts ability to have a vertical search, dashboard, and automation as well. And instead of me talking about that, we have Kislaya Anand, who's the Senior Delivery Manager, Enterprise Business Solution at Monotype. I thought, better than me, I would have Kislaya talk about his experience with Botminds and talk about what, the journey was. Kislaya, thanks for joining in.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you well.
Thanks, Vikas.
All right, go ahead with that.
Yeah, so the problem that we had, as Vikas has explained, that we had we are a complex organization, so we grew over the last 2 to 3 decades with a lot of acquisitions, and these acquisitions were small ticket size acquisitions. And this font industry is very fragmented industry, so we were trying to consolidate our presence there. In doing so, we acquired a lot of contracts, customer contracts, which were running for say last 2 decades or so with our customers. And since we became the entity which now runs under the name of Monotype, we had to really consolidate the entire legacy contracts that we had. Now there was when this problem was something that business explored with my team, we started looking for whatever the available solutions in the market. We came across the standard other solutions which are OCR based, evaluated them, and then we also discussed with Botminds. This was maybe a year and a half ago, maybe last year, somewhere 21, somewhere in the month of May, we started interaction with Vikas and Gokul. And we really see the platform had a good promise, and that is where we got good confidence that we can build up the solution. So like these 30,000 customer contracts, they were over a period of 2 decades with different formats, no standardization, because an entity, and in fact the entity names were also not consistent. So we would not find Monotype at all all these contract documents. Then they were not, a lot of documents were specifically negotiated with the customer based on their template, based on their understanding, and based on different geographies has specific requirements. Like for in EMEA, you need to have special clauses in Europe for people for PII, GDPR compliances, and so on. In US, it was the other, it was some other thing, and so in Japan and other geographies. So the electronic information that was there in the CRM did not tie back to the actual contract which was signed, and the contract data was very important for us to understand what is the entitlement that we have offered to the customer over the period of time, and that was the key business problem for us to identify what was the entitlement for a customer in a given point in time. Yeah, because yeah. So the other things that so this was the main business problem, and then we also gave our wish list, and few of them are here. So how can this solution contextualize to the niche domain that we are in, which is about font licensing. We specifically wanted private cloud because obviously contracts are sensitive documents. Or Okta integration for SSO enablement, and we also wanted a SharePoint connected to be built up, which can talk to our environment, our AD, and then it can ingest new contracts which are coming day in and day out. So that was the set of requirements that we started evaluating the Botminds AI solution.
So I'll cover this case study overview. So just the way Kisley had mentioned, 30,000 contracts, a lot of discrepancy between the overall information which is there in a variety of different systems. Contracts, like you mentioned, is uploaded in SharePoint, multiple groups, and it's just a repository where information kind of needs to be there. And the challenge was the new owners, the new organization, the new people that are coming through, they have no visibility. They have no visibility to what the contracts are. And the best, like I'd mentioned, was find by name, if the name is even right. And Kisley mentioned that even the name entity was not the same. So you had to figure out what exactly the entity was and being able to put that out. And in addition to that, there were 22 different types of contracts, which were there. And you saw in the demo, I had different classification on the right-hand side. So what we built was the ability to classify based on the custom classification that Monotype had to say, we want to categorize our contracts in these. And then we want to categorize in the industry to say original, addendum, appendix, and so on and so forth. And just the way Kisley mentioned that, there are other technologies and tools that they looked at earlier. None of them essentially did. And I would essentially ask, all of you who are here on the webinar today as well, challenge you in a way that to handle this solution, if you can think of any other solution to build, to address the challenge that Monotype essentially had and give them the output that they currently have. So from only being able to search for a file, now Monotype, Jan Kessner's name that you saw right next to Kislea's as the legal counsel, he made this statement, I'll quote him that, from not being able to know where the documents are, I can now search and say, show me all the contracts which are supposed to expire 6 months from October 2022, right? And have a value between 1 million and 5 million, for example. So that's the kind of intricacy that is kind of available, with our platform. That was really a query that we kind of provided. It's again a no-code query. And Ian is a legal counsel. Kisley, of course, is from the IT side, but Ian is like as much as required, stay away from the platform or IT side, but he is fairly, well versed within the platform there. So with this, I'll give it back to, Kisley. This is the advantages that, I just spoke about. So we built custom AI models, point and click, no code platform. High accuracy of the extraction, something that we built at the very, very beginning. Classification models were built within the first week's time. First model was built within a month's time. And the flexibility, of an overall platform. The dashboard that you saw, essentially, I think Kisley will cover it, but I'll just, tee this in, is one of the things that we built in conjunction with Monotype based on their requirements. So there's a lot of development that has happened in the platform, through Monotype, as well. So back to you, Kisley, for sharing your thoughts, please.
Yeah. So how did we, the biggest challenge was how did we scale, we started the solution So first of all, so out of 30,000 contracts, the most important problem was to identify how do we classify these contracts. The, the initial classification model that was built on this, on the Botminds AI, did a very good job, and it was done maybe in the first 2 weeks. We were able to see classification data. At least these are the license order forms, these are the customer contracts, these are custom SOWs, or these are specific for non-monotype entity contracts. So this entire classification, so they first we were able to segregate out of 30,000. How do we segregate? So there were in fact some PDF documents which were told to us that this is a contract, but it was actually an invoice copy. So we were able to first segregate or cleanse the entire data that we need to extract from the entire mass of 30,000 number. So that was the classification model. And second, based on the classification model, that these are the top end classifications. We did onboard Jan Kastner, who is our senior legal counsel, and his team to identify the core taxonomies. So basically, which are the labels of these contracts which is significant for the business we want to extract. And that is where we identified somewhere around, I think, close to 120 plus taxonomies within all the different document types, that these are the significant labels that we want to extract, and we want to train the models. So the next system was finalizing the taxonomy, so which was also done in the first 2 weeks of time. And then the training set started. So for any AI, we understand it has to be trained. So it is not it is a trained model. So the training set and that is where the people, these specific people from my team and including business team, they started doing a point and click training of the model based on which labels, which relevant data that we just saw a couple of slides back by Vikas. How where do we read and what do we read? What is the context that we bring? We brought about something called as normalization. That was an important thing where he spoke about the date, and the date in the contract could have been written in any which ways. But for a database to consume and then to report, we standardize the normalization of dates, then of amount. Somewhere we use comma in places of the dot for the decimal values. So all these inconsistencies were there. So that is where we do the normalization. And then the way we started training, so the minimum training set was maybe to get good accuracy, we went up to 80 to 100 contracts per training set, so that we wanted to have good accuracy there. And this is where when we started getting the first output of the model, that was probably from the start of the project, it was somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks. We could see that it was in excess of somewhere around 70% and high. And then the second refinement, we were able to get it in the excess of 90% for key fields. So basically, what I'm trying to say, both the platform as well as the business, so both the tech team and the business had to really work hand in hand, because this is about the better we train the platform, the better we expect the output out of it. And then we also created these intuitive queries or intuitive searches enabled, like show me the contracts which are expiring in the next 6 months with a dollar value this, and that is how the indexing was done, so that it can give you the data and not miss anything which is relevant. Do the right tagging. Once the classification is done, we also did introduce something at different stages of contract. Maybe we introduced eyeballing of specific contracts which were really the PDF quality was not accurate. Maybe it was because of the scanned copy or the image that was not accurate. So we brought human in the loop also to introduce the accuracy of the system. So and the best part here is that out of doing all this extraction, we wanted all this data to be then interfaced to my CRM system, because that is where my sales data exists. So it needs to tie back to my sales data with a specific tags for opportunities and a customer identifier, so that it can tie back and sit with the right data set in my CRM. So the entire thing was built up on a integration layer, which was basically it was done so that um, it was an event trigger. So as and when a particular contract passed a particular stage, the contract was interfaced to CRM for it to consume and display there. And also the output was available in CSV. This helped us to do a rapid review of what type of fields that the AI is able to identify, if there are trainings requirement, if so on and so forth, refinements, that it was really helpful. So that is how we went ahead on this, and it really helped us. This was tailored, contextualized to meet the specific requirements to have more accuracy and high accuracy. And the best part here is that after doing this, in last year in December, we bought a company. Last year, we bought that company in July, but the contracts were made available to us in December. And when we uploaded those contracts, which those were totally unknown to the model, we really were surprised by the type of output that we get. It was a pleasant surprise that it was able to identify completely untrained data. It was able to identify the classification, where are the customer names, what is the start date, end date, and so on and so forth. So that really gave us the confidence that this is really a solution which is working for us. The next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, now the learnings. So here the most important piece is how do you build up your team, and how do you start the project planning purpose in terms of looking at the data, trying to see what type of data you have. You quantify your taxonomy processes on what exactly is the end state should look like. Look at the big picture, plan for the big picture, but make baby steps. So like document classification first, then taxonomy finalization, then training of taxonomy models, and then building on top of it, doing a refinement. And the important piece is the interaction between the key business person and the IT team, as well as the product team from Botminds, or the implementation team from Botminds. The better coordination that we can get, it is better that the output would be more refined. And so obviously with all of this comes project management feature, the agile approach that we took forward, we started taking in the bite sizes. And even so, to curate the data, we have to do a model scoring, different model scoring that we did. So based on maybe one approach fit for all may not work. So we also had, for key identified templates or very standard templates, we had a model which was at much higher accuracy than when we broke down to maybe a contract which was 15 years back, and the data was not very accurately being popped up. So we specifically tailored another model, another contextualized model, which can work very well for such type of contract. So this is how we broke the problem, and we were able to really get good results out of it. And the best important piece was when the business talks about the solution, and they are able to present this solution front of front of audiences. That is where you know that you have actually done a good job in defining their problem, they're resolving their problem statement. So that was really something we were able to do. And it was all true because of the Botminds team, the internal team from my team, as well as the business. All three are the very key stakeholders here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Hussein. Thanks for the walkthrough. Thanks for sharing your insights. I think it's very easy for anyone to talk about Thera, the great things, but I think the key reason for this forum really is also to learn from what were the challenges, what are the best practices, and that I think is absolutely valuable, in my view. Thanks for sharing that. And Kisle will be here for some more time to be able to answer any questions that anybody may have. I am going to quickly go to a closure towards my presentation so we can have a Q&A here. Just three more pieces here. I wanted to give you a view because I know that all of you are from a variety of different industries and different kind of organizations. So what you see here is three slides I will present. This is about banking, financial services, and healthcare. The ones that you see on bold are the areas that we have worked in. So anywhere you have any document And essentially on the most of the organizations kind of stay away from looking at a document-based automation because they haven't really seen any solution that handles that. So most of the organizations just stick to structured data problems that are predefined kind of a scenario. So, and I would like to challenge that, to all of you here to be able to look at any unstructured data, anything that is specifically document-based, and see if Botminds can essentially solve that. So the ones that you see in black are the ones that we've already kind of addressed in one way or the other. I'll take you to the next, which is insurance, legal, and research. So this is open web research. These are massive legal documents, what you've seen, within Monotype as well. Insurance documents as well, and the quality of documents, kind of shifts. There is medical underwriting, somewhere in there as well that we kind of take a look at. And certain other pieces when it comes down to government and transportation and logistics. And this may not be the exhaustive list here, but anything that you are looking at, which essentially has, a document, we can absolutely look at that. And I would like to close by, offering that anybody who's here on this call today and wants to look at a solution from Botminds, there are certain solutions which are absolutely mature that are listed down here. These are ready to go, starting point from today itself. You can start using them. And if you don't see any of the solutions, you saw that solution sitting at the back, we have the ability to put a custom requirement, address as well. We will give you a 30-day, Botminds trial access, set up your teams, give you the models so you can see exactly what kind of, documents you can upload and what is the kind of output that essentially, comes at you. And with that, I will hand it over to Jean for a Q&A from this one onwards.
Thank you, Vikas. As we have come to the end of this webinar, the floor is open for questions from you all, and the speakers will be glad to answer them. Please note down your questions in the chat box.
In terms of your taxonomy, right? So how do you kind of enrich your taxonomy for different domains, right? So how do you kind of like segregate it or include it or kind of enrich it at the same time? So what process has been followed?
Sure. So we have done some of that work within some of the models which are available with us, like, say, for example, financial services. But all of that essentially starts with giving sample starting points. So you have a sample data, which is typically about 70 to 80 documents. And then comes point and click training, which is done by the SMEs. And while that training is happening, there's a semantic understanding that is picked up by our model to say if you're training the same attribute by 3 different type of occurrences, that's the learning that essentially goes within that engine. And with that itself, our engine also goes ahead. It has the semantic understanding to be able to say, okay, looks like you didn't train me with this 4th type of variation, but because you trained me for these 3, this looks like a very similar. I semantically recognize that, and it'll throw it back, for the SME to verify.
Okay. So there is a manual training process that you go through, and then kind of like feed that for enhancements. Yeah. Okay.
For all the ones, even for the one that Kisleya spoke about, that initial manual training process essentially runs, and that typically takes about a week or 2, depending upon the number of attributes, number of variation documents that you have. Once it has reached to a specific, confidence score, and then any new document, it basically goes ahead and picks up. And there are certain certain types of documents, certain types of solutions, which are already trained at an industry level. You get a very good starting point from there. You don't have to start from scratch, on the training there, Arun.
Okay. And do you have this taxonomy classification for different domains separated? Is it or it is included in the same?
It is at the moment included in the same. Because what we are looking towards is, on the variety of different trainings which have come through, we're kind of zeroing down to a singular industry-wide classification that is available. But absolutely, if there is a classification that needs to be done for a specific industry, for a specific domain, and then you need to separate them out, the platform can absolutely do that. And I would also invite, Gokul, you're here, I see. If there's anything else you want to add. please feel free.
Yeah, I think you covered well. Arun, your question about, yes, classification. Can you do it? Yes, we can. You can do it. Again, no code platform. You can define the taxonomy, and you can give examples, and you can generate a model yourself. That's the approach.
Okay. So how about the MLOps processes has been implemented in terms of the model explainability and from a different user perspective, right? From the developer to the validator, like how you're kind of using the platform in
That's
those scenarios.
important question. Yes, MLOps integrated right within our platform. Meaning, initiating a new model, I mean, generating a model or creating updated version whenever you have got, few corrections. Yeah, all included right in our platform. So maybe Ansari can talk a bit more about it. And Ansari?
Hey everyone, Ansari here. Thanks, Rahul. When it comes to the MLOps, right, that's a good question. The many system today, what we have is that MLOps is always separate, right? Now, managing the model and making a varieties of versions and then managing them. The more important in machine learning is that always there will be underlying drift in the data. You will always end up building a varieties of model. Manage them is very hard. And how do you manage them? Everything in a one single place matters a lot. So what we did in our system is that how do we have all the models in a one place and manage them, and anytime when there's a change in the system, automatically update the right model. It's all part of the MLOps system. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, so you have a monitoring framework to basically detect the data drift as well.
Can you say again? What monitoring?
A monitoring framework for monitoring all your data drifts across different models, right? So
exactly. If there's any change in the underlying data drift, and then if the model quality goes down, we'll rebuild the model, we'll update the version. So that is all part of the system. Yes.
Okay. So you provide a sandbox basically for your environment, or how do we do this? I mean, how do we kind of try experiencing the model outcomes and all that?
Yeah, we do provide a sandbox. That is essentially given to our partners. We can go ahead and set this up for you, like I mentioned, as a trial. So this sandbox is available. If you're a specific scenario that you may share now, you may share later, you have the contract details anyway. If you want to specify that, we'll say we have the model ready, and we'll set that model up within the sandbox for you, give you the access for you to go ahead and test it out.
Okay. And what was the 30-day trial period? So how is that being enabled?
Yes, so that's the sandbox I'm talking about. So we'll put that model in, and we'll give that to you for 30 days. We'll also give you the training, initial 1-hour training that may be required on where is what in the platform. So you can go ahead and upload your own documents, create your own taxonomy, train your own things, based on your requirements.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks.
And you can be part of the new community where you can take help of other developers, other solution engineers, and you can play around. Yes.
Arun, I take that you have my contact details.
I don't have it. If you can share that, because
yeah, and of course,
right.
send it out as well. But I'm just going to leave it there while we have a discussion. So you can reach out to me. I'll get that set up for you.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Vikas.
Sure. Any other questions, anyone? While the questions are coming up, Ansari, Gokul, do you want to share something that I kind of did not cover in my presentation so far?
Okay, yeah, we can talk about the question asked, right? how you can, how you learn, right? It's more importantly, it's a custom AI solution. So it's not only the solutions we have, you can come up with a requirement where you can say, this is the process, these are the document types, these are the information I want to extract, and you can develop that end-to-end solution, that custom AI solution, without having to worry about the technology, machine learning, deep learning. That's the key part what Kislaya talked about. Kislaya's team and the business users, they developed more than what Botminds helped. It's like they uploaded a document, they annotated, they created a model, they saw the accuracies. So it's a custom AI models developed with no code platform. So that's what I want to highlight. I can see a couple of questions because.
Yeah. How's the pricing model for the solution? Okay, Amal, thanks, Gokul, for pointing me there. Yeah, I mean, so we have two components here, essentially. One is a fixed component, which is onboarding. It's a single-time setup cost for the model development, wherever applicable. That's one. But our pricing essentially is on the lowest part of it. We have 3 different tiers, and we do it on a per-page basis. So you get a bundle of number of pages, and let me prefix that with something different, because all of you may be familiar with an RPA kind of pricing, which is a per bot, then the orchestrator, then there's a machine, then there's a license and all that stuff. With Botminds, there's a single enterprise license, which means you buy one license. Within that license, you can get 20 users, 50 users, 100 users. All of them will have access within the single license based on the tier that you pick up. And within that, you get the page processing capacity up to certain, 20,000 pages, 50,000 pages, 100,000 pages, per month, depending upon your volume. So that's your capacity, that's your platform access. Then comes model generation, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to pay for a particular model that needs to be created. You can create 5 models. You can have 5, teams running and using, Botminds platform for their own individual requirements. Your pricing essentially would not change. It is still the same. You choose the slab that you want, the tier that you want, based on the capacity that is there. That's a single enterprise license.
So Amal, hope that answers. So it's subscription plus pay as you.
Okay. Just another related question. Since large organization would have already done, RPA automations or some level of orchestration, etc. So your solution would replace that, or what's the industry use case? I mean, if somebody's already using RPA, your product would just replace that, or will complement that particular platform?
I'll take that. So Amol, essentially, we are not replacing RPA, because RPA essentially is a process automation. So you've got a business process, that flow you've automated end to end. There could be 100, 200 steps there that you've done. The starting point of the RPA really is typically structured. Of course, intelligent automation is doing a lot of activities here from the marketplace and everything else, depending upon which platform you have, but it's still valid for all of them. Where Botminds comes into place before the RPA, where you essentially have your SMEs sitting down here. They are not able to go ahead. The SMEs need to extract the information so that they can provide information to RPA, so RPA can do the rest of the activity. We can be the interface right before any RPA platform for those who have already invested within RPA.
It's a complementary solution to the existing landscape. Okay.
Absolutely. So think of this as a very simple, Abby OCR. You've got that does certain thing for you, then you do the RPA, because it opens up the door. In a similar way, we go way beyond the OCR for the document understanding. And for any process where you haven't really built an RPA yet, and the main challenge is document understanding. What I'm saying with the end-to-end automation is we can do that end-to-end RPA automation as well, as long as it is documents. So you don't have to have any investment on RPA licenses also. So it's a complementary both ways.
And most of the industry use cases pre-related, the example which you gave is, before any automation starts, you kind of build the model, etc. But have you seen any industry use cases where in the middle of the processing, it requires certain AI or insights, or even at the end, which is, after you generate the output, say your RPA tool generates the output, and have you come across any of those kind of use cases?
So yes, to a certain extent, and I will invite Gokul to fill me in a little later. In the cases where the output that has come about, which is in terms of, from Botminds, which is structured information, and then it goes to RP, and RP is doing all the processing. That is an end-to-end through process, because our starting point is any kind of document. But we are currently working with, one of our partners where the output from our platform is essentially an input to an AI modeling platform where they do a lot of insights, they do a lot of preemptive, information gathering to say, okay, we are looking and we are doing this prediction based on the data that has come through, right? So there is a lot of plugin that's available between, our platform and any other AI platform, because that's where the data, handshake happens. Gokul, do you want to add something?
Yeah, since Kislaya here, I think Kislaya can add value there, because I know Kislaya team built a few bots, not extensively, that works in tandem with Botminds, right, Kislaya?
Yeah. So we have used some of the automation techniques of some programmed bots to accentuate the solution. So one is the one that monitors the solution from ingestion to the output. So say suppose a new contract got onboarded and it was introduced in the system, and at what rate are we ingesting it, are we monitoring it, and how the output is getting filtered to the Salesforce. That is one piece of thing. Second is reconciliation that we have to do with between what is ingested and versus what has been catered, already been filtered enough, because the output that we want to show on the Salesforce, or contextual output of only the entitlement data. So we are doing a triaging with the. So basically, we want to also always have an eye on the accuracy of this the AI algorithm. So we do a triaging of the entitlement data coming from our code system, from our order system, and finally this contract, so that we are fairly within the threshold to understand that the accuracy of this self-learning system is being maintained. And whenever we see that if a new clause is, say suppose a new clause got introduced, and obviously business would not ask us before introducing a clause in the contract, that would already be operational and will come to know post facto. Then doing this monitoring, we will be able to understand that maybe we need to factor in specific use training for these collection of few labels of few taxonomies, and then this gets added up. So this is where we use a mix of RP just to add on to monitoring and triaging.
Okay.
Hope this makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. Just quick insight in terms of what's the underlying tech stack or the technology behind, or which customers should be aware of, because in a typical company you have mix of heterogeneous systems, so anything which is could be a key consideration for potential customers based on the existing tech stack they have.
Perfect. I'll ask Ansari to add more details after my one-line answer. So we always say we are working in the intersection of deep learning and NLP, and chasing the cutting edge research. So that's one. But details Ansari will add. But more key information for enterprise is, see, it's a fully containerized microservices architecture. So for example, you in an enterprise, if you want, yes, we can deploy, we can spin a cluster, and then we can deploy, and it's completely scalable at all layers, right? For example, time taken to process 10 documents versus 1,000 documents, we can make it absolutely same because it's scalable. So tech wise, deep learning and NLP intersection, and then containerized scalable cloud solution. So that's at 20,000 feet, but for 200 feet, I'm sorry, you want to add?
No, Google, you covered it. That's all. So of course, it's deep learning, and then there is no much thing that any concerns or anything for the enterprise. We deployed to varieties of the enterprise so far right now. So all contained at the end of the day. And there's a front end, back end as usual. We have Angular technology in the front end and the back end. We have varieties of server going on. The Node.js is the one server, Python server, C++ server, and also other .NET-based server. Now, the Python is like a lot of code, but we want to optimize it. As Gokul said, we want to process 1,000-page documents. So what we did is that really put an engineering system to convert heavily to C++ code to make it everything much faster. And that's all varieties of systems sitting in the server side. But at the end of the day, it's all packaged, containerized, runs in the Kubernetes end of the day. So it's all, again, everything as a microservice. You can deploy it in your Azure cloud or Botminds, which is again underlying it's Azure cloud. It's all possible today. So that's a very high level. And now when it comes to specifically the AI, it's all TensorFlow and PyTorch based deep learning networks.
Okay, thank you.
Now, since we are in, because the reason, Azure or Microsoft call, we also available in Microsoft Marketplace, I think from next week. Amol, any enterprise, and you also can go and find Botminds in a marketplace, and you can get started with Botminds in one click from Marketplace. So that's maybe another week or two, but that easy to get started with Botminds in Azure.
Okay. Thanks for answering the questions.
Thank you.
All right, Jean, back to you then.
We are at the end of the session for today. I thank each one for taking their time and joining in for this event. I also take this opportunity to thank the speakers, Mr. Vikas Anand, Mr. Kislaya Anand, and their team for sharing their insightful inputs and their experiences. Thank you once again. Have a great day, all.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kishlaya.